If you've played other FPS shooter games, you should know that when you run and shoot, your bullets are just, they don't do anything. And running is by default always on, and this is an option that just makes it a nightmare to actually run and gun, which is a very, very difficult thing to tell your brain to stop doing, especially if you play other FPS games where running and shooting is okay. Of course, a lot of people will tell you, just stop when you shoot, just stop moving, you know, just don't move. Or when you're moving, you need to be walking instead, which by default you have to hold shift to walk, which is actually the change that I made that changed how I played the game and made it a lot easier for me to feel more comfortable in the setting. So if we hit escape and we go to our controls and in actions, in movement, you'll see here the default movement, I think for default for most people, is run. This is very awkward for me because this means that every time you hold shift, you walk. Whereas in every single game, every other game, holding shift makes you run. So I set it, my default movement is actually walk. So when I'm not holding shift, when I'm just moving around, I'm walking at this speed. But when I hold shift, I now run. So every time I want to run, I hold shift. When I'm in combat, I don't hold shift because then I'm like, I'm not sprinting. I'm fighting around a corner like this. You might have to shift and like peek in like that and stuff, but at least you can use your shift as needed and you don't have to worry about holding in your shift for sections where you need to wait around a corner. I don't know how this will affect everybody, but for me, it feels much more comfortable being able to just run when holding shift as needed. There's also a few other settings that I've changed just for my benefit. I'm not sure if they were the default, but I know some of the people use them, and I think it's very dependent. But for me, in my case, if you feel like you relate to how I play the game, I have crouch on toggle off. So every time I want to crouch, I just hold left control as needed. So if I'm coming around a corner, see an enemy, can crouch and shoot. Even though they tell you crouching and shooting is bad in this game, I still do it sometimes, but not all the time. But when I feel like I need to be more accurate at those long distance shots, which is really where it comes into play. And if you're not already using it, I recommend going to your equipment under controls and having your aim down sights and sniper rifle aim to hold instead of toggle. So that when you want to aim, you just hold right click and fire. The same goes for the sniper rifle. When you want to aim, right click, shoot, bam, done. Just like that. I feel like having these systems allows me to do things like this quite quickly where I can just, zoom in, shoot, and then move away or do something like that. Even with the Marshall, it can be like bang, bang, without having to double tap right click every single time to like unzoom. Because here you'd like zoom in and then you'd have to unzoom. It's a weird setting that I think I don't know who uses it, but it doesn't work for me. Now, I am by no means good at this game. I still have a lot to learn. Most of the agents, I still don't even understand what most of their abilities do. I play Deadlock like all the time, and I'm really enjoying this agent, but you have to find an agent that fits your style. Some of my favorite ways to practice are going to the shooting range here in the training mode, going to the skills test area, setting it to medium because hard is a little too fast for me right now. I do have bot armor on and I do have infinite ammo on. Click done, select the gun that you want. Do note that with medium, they're going to be rotating quite quickly. Instead of going for headshots, which most pro players will probably do, is like focusing for those heads, which is also a good thing. I think to practice, a good way is to actually focus on landing your shots on the bots instead so that you can track them left and right so that you're a little bit more accurate, because it's still okay to at least find your cursor placement on the enemy. Aiming for a head can be something that you can work towards as you get better. Like sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. A lot of the time I aim too much for the body shots. And in case you didn't know, there's also another training section over here. If you go from here, you can actually do like spike planting as well as spike diffusing training, which is very fun. That one I recommend you set on hard difficulty because this one's going to teach you the real speed of how fast you need to be when you're fighting enemies. So you go in here like spike diffuse, click start, select your guns and armor, everything you want. And what you got to do is actually kill the enemies and defuse the spike before it goes down. I feel like it's a fun way to practice taking corners where there's enemies literally anywhere they rotate, and you just gotta be quick and be fast and aim your shots quite well. And then you just defuse the spike as you're ready. I feel like this is something that's good practice to do over and over with the hard speed bots, where if they get 1 second too long, they will shoot you in the face. And if you run around through this corner over here and you go through here, there's a whole nother section for spike planting. Planting the spike started over here. This one, you're going to deal with 2 bots. You're going to plant the bomb and then 3 bots are going to come and attack you. I recommend doing this one on hard mode as well. It's pretty fun. It's interesting. It's really challenging to keep up with the speed of these bots. See, there we go. We took down the 2 bots and you plant. I feel like once you can do this consistently without dying for like 2 or 3 times, it's a good time to go into a real match and actually practice. I mean, you can also practice your abilities here, but it is a bit broken because some of these bots are terrible with how they control themselves. As you can see here, throwing up my wall over there, none of them actually know how to walk past it. They all get stuck behind that little corner over there, just like that. Nice and easy. If you're still relatively new at the game and you have other tips that you feel like players can benefit from when starting out this game or still trying to get hold of the, the spray patterns, the shooting, the movement, all the different controls, let us know in the comments down below if you have any specific tips that you feel like players could benefit from. And thank you guys so much for watching this video.